Unless you guys see any that we're missing, I would move to, adopt the departmental budgets as worked on by Debbie.
Is, solid waste, are we pulling out a Pilton and trying to get another loan to take that back to Pilt, or how are we gonna?
Correct. What has to happen at the end of every year, any fund that's in a negative, whether it's they've overspent, lack of revenue received because of the cross in fiscal years between us and the state or federal, PILT does a short-term loan effective in June. Then those departments repay it effective in July. So it becomes a wash, but it's kind of a housekeeping issue. We can't have a negative because then that would put us in findings and issues with the auditors. So it's a general fund or PILT are the only two that can do it because they don't have restrictions. PILT does it, they have the largest. Sometimes general fund does, and then it goes right back. And then during the course of the year, depending on the department, the revenue will come in, take care of the negatives, like solid waste is working on possible loans, generating extra revenue, cutting their expenses to cover that, to make up for those deficits. And then hopefully that doesn't happen again at the next fiscal year, but if it does, then the process repeats.
And then the other one was we were talking about taking 19,000 out of Mason Moore and put it into the county attorney budget. So
That was one of the last little housekeepings.
we're gonna take that, we're gonna leave that 19,000 in the Mason Moore account and take the 19 out of Pilt and transfer that over, right?
Right, to the litigation
county
fund.
attorney, does that go to bars litigation, is that
Yes.
where that's going?
Yes, and it stays there.
Okay, so we won't have to worry about that, switching that money back and forth, okay?
We haven't voted on that. I would support that, but I would save so next year it goes to 80 instead of 100, or 81, to compensate for that 19. You guys good with that?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I would move we haven't voted on departmentals. Sorry. Oh, okay.
I have a question on the departmental budgets. Are these the budgets that we submitted, our preliminary that we're voting on then, or? So the exact budget that we submitted is what's being voted on here?
Correct.
Okay, so no changes?
Nope. Nope. What you submitted is what it is. And then any extra revenues that the increased values get goes right into your fund.
So we're having, is there a second on the approval of the departmental budgets?
I will second that motion.
Motion's been made and second to approve the departmental budgets as presented. Any further discussion? Cory?
So, two questions. Let's start first on the victim advocate grant. As you're aware, there was an email exchange last week, and it's not clear to me on what the solution is there. So, we received notice, I think just last Wednesday or Thursday, of the final grant award for victim advocate.
Yeah.
And it's 2 years, it's 48,000 each year, which is slightly under the amount that's needed. And I got an email from Debbie suggesting a couple of changes to the budget, either that it would come out of the county attorney budget, or that we would do an interlocal agreement with Marr County, which is not, number one, we can't do that. We can't do either option. I can explain why if you want. But my meetings with the commission, we've had 2 meetings on it. The last meeting, when we believed that the amount was gonna be the 96,000, which it ultimately turned out to be, I thought at that meeting that the commission said, we'll cover the remaining $4,000. So I just wanna give you a brief history on this, is the grant that we've had, that Brooks had all the way back from 2011.
Actually, it'd be like 98 when it started. These are just the numbers for the
Okay,
last 10 years.
okay, so it started in '98, but the last, what would be the last 10 years, through this 2-year grant that she just got, that there's never been, up until this last 2-year cycle, there's never been a period when the county didn't pay the remainder of that, of her salary and operations. So, for example, the 2016-2017 2-year grant was $20,800 for each year. And then 2018, 2019, it was $50,390, so $50,400 per year. That was the first time ever that 100% of victim advocate work was covered by a grant, and the county realized that savings. And we used some of that for other things, but a lot of that, most of that actually didn't come back to the county attorney's office or the county victim advocate, it went back to the general fund. So this cycle, it's a $2,000 reduction from that, essentially $2,400. And with the COLA and other things, there's a shortfall of about $4,000. So I guess I just want to make it clear that we don't want to be in a position where we're punished for getting a grant. In other words, great news, got a grant that was 100% last two-year cycle. This one, it's at over 95%, probably 95% actually of value. Huge savings over years prior to that. And then if there's a shortfall because the grant amount was reduced, and we're being told, well, take that out of HIDE, that seems counterproductive for anyone who's thinking, well, I can get a grant in the future that will save money for the county, and then if that grant is reduced somehow, I'm punished for it by that money having to come out of HIDE, where we've already been reduced to the point where there's no room there. So I guess I wanted to, and why don't you hand a couple of these to the commissioner? And then Brooke, do you want to add anything, John?
No, I think that that's pretty much it. I guess that's the thing is that until 2017 or 18, I was based off of 2/5 time, and if anybody else would like one, 2/5 time for the county attorney and 3/5 time as the victim witness advocate. And so then when I got this full grant, it did help. It did help pay for me entirely. However, then I never really got clarification of where the other money went that was being paid. So I've been here since 2001. There was always 2/5 time of a budget that when I got this full grant that went away, and I still don't know where that went. So it seems to me that if I didn't get it fully, there should have been monies in the past that were available that aren't now. And as you can see, over the last 10 years alone, I've brought in $331,587 into the county. And it's a lot of work. I mean, I have to like take away from direct services from the people of this county and community to put a lot of time into these grants. So I'm hoping that, like Corey said, we don't get punished for this, because otherwise what would be the point of getting a grant?
So I guess I'm needing some education.
Yeah.
So do you go to Mark County and do some work for them over there?
Sometimes, a lot of times, the Attorney General's office is also involved as well. They have no services up there, and they have some substantial crimes. Right now, I have 2 cases that I'm just assisting. A lot of it is telephone calls, emails, stuff like that, but helping them with, get involved with if there is services available, how we can get them into services, crime victims compensation, things like that, trying to plug them into systems more than anything. So it's not, it could be, I could say that there'd probably be months and months where I wouldn't assist a person up there. But some of these cases go for quite a long time that I might have to have some contact with people. And I do that as much for, these people need help. It's really that simple.
So is the idea of this grant for you to help those folks? Is that the purpose of this?
No, this
It was-
grant is
well,
for.
but it was part
yeah.
of our,
Yeah.
part of our narrative and justification is that she does provide
Okay.
as needed support from our county, so.
And the south end of the county for that matter. I mean, we have, in the north end, I mean,
Okay, that's kind of what I'm asking. Okay, and then who covers your travel costs?
I have that within my grant.
Okay,
It's a line item in my grant.
The concern I have about if we do it in a local agreement with Marr County, number one, that is part of her justification for the increased grant award, so we might be double doing it. But secondly, for it to make sense for them, they're gonna say, okay, we want her here 1 day every week, and that's just not workable. I mean, it's not in any way something that I would agree to.
yeah. So it's just on as needed right now, right? As
Right.
needed basis?
Yeah, and I believe during the one trial we had up there, I did submit travel to them, and they did reimburse that.
But that was also a unique thing in that it was
Yeah.
That was a Broadwater, Marr County case. I mean, it was,
And the victims lived here in Broadwater County, so my duty is to those victims.
I don't think an interlocal has to be like the ones we have with the city, for example. An interlocal could be, if you could go over to provide services because they don't have any, there's a daily charge, not per phone call or email, but if you spend the day over there, should Broadwater County be paying that? And when you did testify that you are a regional victim witness advocate office, well, now there is some obligation that at least be addressed. So an interlocal could be very loose, still on paper so that everybody has a common understanding, but it could be that Marr County will pay you for half a day or a full day that you actually spend helping them with
Yeah.
their cases. So it doesn't have to be something where they guarantee $10,000 a month to your budget. I don't think that was ever intended by anybody.
Okay, and
Certainly
I
not
will
by
say, I don't
Debbie in her email.
think I ever have identified as a regional victim witness. I've assisted. My title is Broadwater County Victim Witness Advocate.
The testimony at Border Crime Control was a regional, because that was one of the abilities to go for not an amendment. So when you didn't get the money you wanted, you guys came to testify in early June.
Right.
Your testimony was with the criteria that you can be reevaluated. One of those is that you're a regional
Right.
facility, and that was the testimony.
Oh, I
So
think it was, yeah,
that's
I understand what
federal
you're
dollars we're
saying.
talking about, we gotta stick with what it is that we're doing.
Right. Yeah, and I think actually what it says is that if wherever you're from, these services are in place, and if the amount of money that you're getting, and that was on the federal level, and we all know that, that the reason that the money wasn't there, it was every single agency in the state of Montana that wasn't funded. What actually I think says is if your agency, and our agencies can be anything, it could be the Y, it could be shelters, anything that get these grants. If those services would go away if you weren't there, then you have the right to appeal it. So that was.
Regional is in that,
Okay,
in that sentence.
okay, that might be,
We just redid them.
okay,
So,
okay,
so again, it doesn't have to be, we want you to pay us $10,000 and you're gonna guarantee 3 days a week over in Marr County. I don't think that's what anybody has ever intended in any of the conversations, but it is something to look at.
okay,
Is how do we just make sure that Broadwater County is not picking up the tab?
Right.
And that you do stay true to that testimony.
yeah.
The other question I have is, Debbie, has there been a penalty for getting this grant?
No.
And
Never,
even with the increase?
correct.
Okay,
And historically, the county attorney is in the general fund, so it's not picking on or penalizing that budget. A budget works in the general fund, you request what you need to maintain your operations. If you're cutting, it was because we were back 2-3 years ago when they're trying to tell everybody to cut their budgets. It's never been said you're not gonna have it. So if you say I'm gonna spend $2,000 this year on postage, but you only spend $500, but next year I'm gonna need 2,000, you budget your 2,000. It's not taking it away, you still get the 2,000, you spent what you needed, it stays in there. You don't say, well, I didn't spend 1,500 and add another 2,000. That's not how the budget in the general fund works. The revenue belongs to everybody in the general fund. Taxes, fees for services, all contribute to everybody in the general fund. So there's never been a penalty. In the past, yes, it was county attorney's budget in the general fund that supplemented the crime victim witnesses services. There's never been a penalty.
I don't think I was the one being penalized, I think the county attorney's office would be penalized because the money would have to come back out of his budget.
But it's still coming out of the general fund.
Okay,
So if he needs that to cover your services or any of his services in his budget, and he's not being extravagant saying I need $1 million because I want it, he's gonna get everything he needs to cover all the services that's under the general fund jurisdiction. It's no different than my budget. If I say I need this much to do it, it's coming out of the general fund. I'm not being penalized.
Okay.
any
So-
more than anybody else.
I don't have a problem with that, so long as that additional, it's almost 5,000 a year, 4,500 of revenue comes into my budget to cover that. That's what I said in my email. I don't have a problem with that, so long as I get the additional revenue to do it. Because my current budget, the revenue has been chopped. I'm at the margin. That's all there is to it. And so if there's another 4,500 a year that needs to cover for her time, then fine. But I'm gonna need the 4,500 from the general fund to cover that. That's what my point has been.
And I think another piece of clarification is, you said your revenue has been chopped. I think a piece that we need to remember is you chopped it. When you canceled your interlocal with the city and lost $18,000,
And I-
we took $18,000 from the general fund and gave that to you anyway, for your office. You were not penalized, you did not lose it, you did not realize an $18,000 hole. So we haven't chopped your budget, we have made you whole each year, just like Debbie described.
Okay, well, we can have a very long conversation about this if you want to, but if you go back from day one, when I walked in here, to today, it has been a consistent, continual, year by year, reduction in my revenue and punishments for any savings, rather than me keeping them for major litigation. But I know we disagree on this, Commissioner, so that's fine, but I'm telling you that this has not been us walking around handing out $100 bills, and what we have seen, in my view, is a reduction in my budget in places where I need it, or views that have been unsympathetic towards the needs that we have. We've scraped together funds here and there. So, the same thing would go for this interlocal issue last year, is you see, if you look at that budget amount from 2017 to 2018 is much more than the $18,000 in lost revenue from the city. It's over $30,000. And we also found other revenues last year to offset that. And we can go back and replow that ground if we need to. What I'm getting at is today, two things. Number one, Debbie just represented to the commission that this was fixed. Well, I don't know what the fix is, so I'd like to know what that is. Number two, we are not doing an interlocal agreement with Mara County. We're not doing what you just suggested. That's not gonna happen. I absolutely will not agree to that. And that a justification we had as far as Brooke providing regional services as needed, that was justification for the grant amount. We're not gonna now reuse that for county money, and we're only talking $4,500 a year. It's not like Mara County is out there gouging us to the rate of $4,500 a year. That's not what's happening. So, what we've made it very clear from the beginning is we were concerned this grant would have a shortfall. At the testimony in June, when we found out there was much more money available, and we talked about the fact that the region would suffer, and the region would suffer if Brooke were suddenly not there, guess what? We got an increased grant award from the Board of Crime Control. I consider that at least partially responsive to the fact that she does have a regional presence here. So it doesn't make sense to now go back and do an additional charge for Mara County, or a charge for Mara County, for that remaining $4,500. I'm not gonna agree to an interlocal agreement with Mara County, because I know what will happen. There will be mission creep, and she'll be over there all the time. And that's just not gonna work for us.
And secondly, it's not unlike, and just say in the sheriff's office, we do agency assist. You help people in other counties. They don't have to have interlocal agreements with, say, somebody from Gallatin County, or if Gallatin County comes and helps us, we don't charge them,
Which
or
they
they don't
just
charge
did.
us, they just did. That's part of the line of work that we're in, unfortunately.
So is that grant given to you as to cover Broadwater County?
Yes.
So at what point, when White Sulphur has all these needs for services, are we gonna start charging Mara County for our services?
It's not this huge amount.
Our taxpayers are paying for her to go to Mara County. Why isn't Mara County simply reimbursing us we send them a bill, if she spends 4 hours, we send them a bill for 4 hours, they pay us back. Otherwise, when they explode and get a mine and they got 20 times more cases, all of a sudden she's over there all the time.
No, the problem is if we do an interlocal agreement, that's what will happen.
Well, what I'm saying is, without this interlocal agreement right now, it's already happened.
No,
No,
it
I
hasn't.
could use my
These-
discretion.
These two cases are One of them is because it was a Townsend connection, I took over the case. Marvin Reddick and I took the case over. We had to get it done. That was, and so in the process, we basically lived with these folks for a year and a half. This other case is absolutely, I mean, it's worse than any case I've had in this arena. It's a bad one. And the Attorney General's office is heavily invested. And so we agreed to help them out because it's seriously a human cost is significant if someone doesn't help them out. But, I mean, it's not like we're out there, you know, every month fielding calls from Marr County. But she does provide a service in acute crisis moments for them, which is part of what we explained in the grant narrative. This is not gonna be a runaway train, but if we do an interlocal agreement, that is my concern. The camel's nose is gonna be under the tent, next thing you know, the whole camel's gonna be inside the tent. And I don't want that to happen. Marr County is fully aware of the growth issues that they have. They just moved their county attorney to 3/4 time, he was half-time, and they are doing a cost estimate where the mining company is paying for them to at least one or maybe two more officers as an impact fee that to come on. And they're fully aware of the fact that if there's a victim advocate that's needed, that they realize they're gonna have to end up doing a probably half-time, it certainly wouldn't be full-time, but they're gonna have to do probably a half-time person over there. I've had these conversations with the county attorney, but I'm not gonna invite them to ride her like a rented mule, and that's what'll happen.
So if this is assisting the Attorney General, why aren't we billing the Attorney General?
We don't bill the Attorney General, they don't bill us. That's not how it works. We're talking $4,500 a year. This-
I don't have an issue with the $4,500.
It's not that much.
What I have an issue with is that this thing's gonna grow, and then we're gonna end up, and then it's gonna be a year later before well, you know what, we need an interlocal, or we need to say no.
The way that it's gonna grow, I will say this, the way it's gonna grow is by doing exactly what you're proposing. The other thing I have a problem with is no one's had this conversation with me. Commissioner Robert just referred to a bunch of conversations. I don't know who those were with. We found out about it when we got an email from Debbie last week. So if you're considering an idea of an interlocal agreement, the two people that should be in on that conversation are sitting right here. We never heard boo about it. So
Yes,
I have
we
a
did.
problem with that.
Brooke and I had a conversation in the hallway a couple weeks ago, and I asked you about it, and you said, oh yeah, that's doable.
No, I think you suggested it. I think the only thing I would have said is we could talk about it. I don't think I would have said it was doable. Because let me just say, I run my office, I've been in my office for 20 years. I use my discretion as to how often I go to Marr County, which is very few and far between. The one case was the victims came to me to report a horrible crime. So I had to assist these victims. They live in Broadwater County. The crime happened in Marr County. So my duty was to the victims. The other one is simply a phone call here and there. I'm assisting people right now throughout the state that were probably victims of crimes within our county. I don't charge that county for their resident. It makes no sense.
So last year she did a Lewis and Clark County case, okay? That was you remember, it was in the newspaper. Someone was wrongfully convicted, two guys were wrongfully convicted of a murder from the 80s, okay? Everybody there had to be conflicted out because the current county attorney was on the defense team and the victim advocates, it was a mess. Attorney General had to take it over. They didn't have a victim advocate who could assist the victims. They called and asked Brooke, and Brooke said, yes, I'm gonna help. She spent several days up in Lewis and Clark County helping the Attorney General's office, helping them. Attorney General's office didn't bill Lewis and Clark County for that work. That's their job. That's how they help each other out. We helped them out because, I mean, think about that. You got a family who 23 years later, a murder is overturned, a murder conviction is overturned. They were going through a major crisis. So that's what we do. We help each other out. And that's part of the regional services she does. But this idea that we're gonna do this interlocal agreement for Marr County, number one, like I said, that's a conversation we should have rather than a random email literally right before you're gonna approve the budget. And secondly, I'm telling you, it's not a good idea.
And just to kind of add to the sharing of services, you know, we're getting hung up, but, you know, you go back to May of 2017, you had a bunch of Lewis and Clark, Gallatin County, Bozeman PD, Highway Patrol, Lewis and Clark deputies, HPD, work in your county streets. And none of them sent us a bill. And as sheriffs, that's what we do. As law enforcement, as county attorneys, we step in when there's a need and we take things over. And I think even our citizens would appreciate the fact that when there's 2 or 3 deputies on every shift in their town and there's abundance of them, I think everybody saw them, they're probably pretty thankful that the sheriffs of those jurisdictions didn't send us a bill for that. They probably very appreciative of the fact that as we have the ability to step in and help people out in a time of need, we do that. And I don't think if there's a citizen out there that would disagree with anybody helping another person out, that's one of our core factors of life and being a citizen of this country, is we help our neighbors. That's all that they're trying to do in this particular sense. It's not, and I wouldn't want to do it either. I don't want to engage in an interlocal agreement with Sheriff Gookin or Sheriff Dutton, even though they're both very good friends of mine. But I sure don't want to put something in paper that says that I have an obligation. And, I get to use discretion where I can jump in and where they jump in and everything else. So that sharing of services has been happening for years and years and years, and it's going to continue to happen. It's no different than DCI coming down and investigating anything down here. They don't send me a bill for that. They come in, they take care of it, and they do whatever I need them to do, and then they go on their merry way. Not to prolong this out any farther. They just think that, let's not get down in the weeds too far where we're having conversations about putting things in writing, because, that tends to go back into the statement I made last week about too much government and too many things where we don't need it. So, I'll just leave it at that unless somebody has a question for me.
One more thing too, I mean, we have victims that are passing through this county all the time that live in other communities and other counties that I plug them into their local victim advocate. So somebody's got to give them services, and it's where it's convenient for that victim, truthfully. I use complete discretion on how much I help Mark County, and it is very occasional.
All right, so the question still is, where are we gonna come up with $4,500 for this account?
I would suggest we just leave it for now, monitor. If there's an issue, we can address it, but for right now, I suggest we just go ahead and keep the budget as is.
But what is the as-is? What is
What it
the,
is right now.
but I don't know what that is. I don't have a piece of paper. I don't know. Debbie says she's got a fix for that shortfall, but I don't know what it is. Does anyone?
The new fiscal year is getting her fourth quarter revenue. But it's this current year that we just finished, there's a $10,000 shortfall because the grant money did not come in by June. So it's all a matter of paperwork, how to take care of that. Which is what we've been discussing. What happens in June is a short term, this comes back out in July, everything's balanced, everything's good, and it comes out in the wash because of these fourth quarter things. I was just kind of pointing out, running numbers. Did anybody remember this is a shortfall? It wasn't discussed. That's why I put that out there, because like everything else, these little things come up as I'm finalizing, values come. Every department has had some kind of email conversation from me about what are we gonna do about this? This happened, valuations, this did this. All it is a matter of housekeeping paperwork so the budget's balanced, accounting principles are followed, keeping us out of hot water with the state and Department of Revenue, so we're not violating any of their things and getting funding withhold. Because if we don't do it right, grant money could get withheld because we aren't following said regulations that they are now setting forth and forcing on us.
But now you've got that final
But
payment.
once we clarified, it changed the whole outlook of that.
Because that's always a reimbursement,
Because
right?
it's always a reimbursement.
Okay, so fourth quarter last year is done, is good, correct?
She's told me when it's coming in, I just have to make notes, moving forward, that takes care of it.
So what's the plan for the current budget that these guys are about to adopt for that $4,500 shortfall?
Debbie, wasn't there a $10,000 shortfall and the fourth quarter came in at 13,000, so there's 3,000?
Right, but the
Okay.
problem is it came in the new year.
Correct.
So in finalizing last year in this new year's budget, it doesn't show as revenue last year, so it shows her fund in a negative, as well as many other funds. It comes in the new year, but because it's when it's received, we have to count it as revenue in this year. So it's like there's a lag time. That's always a housekeeping issue, when there's those lags. She's not the only one. We've got other federal grants, the health clinic, that we have to do these little housekeeping things, but I have to know the amount to plug it in, and that was what I was waiting for on Brooke. And then this whole other thing came to light, and I was like, oh, here's another part. Did we talk about this? What are we, here's what I see the options that have been out there and discussed with me,
So
what I need to do.
Okay, so the budget that you were talking about then was prior to that money coming in, and so that was the concern, okay.
So what is the budget we're gonna adopt?
We're not
for
adopting
this-
it yet, I'm trying to get
Got it.
the numbers so I can finish it so we can have our hearing to adopt it. Yes.
What is the proposed fix? What is the proposed source of revenue for the $4,500 for victim advocate per year that is not covered by her grant?
It goes year to year and zeroes out. There's not extra. My fix is, a lot of your surcharges, you have a restricted cash account that it's not going into.
Okay.
And I think that's where we're getting off,
Okay.
is it's going into regular cash when Doug's office receipts it. So that's
Okay.
gonna be one of the things that stops, so it goes in there.
Okay.
I don't know how that will play out long-term, but that's one of the things that needs to happen that wasn't being done.
Okay.
But you can't use those surcharges for your salary.
Yeah, you can. I can use it however I want to, it can go within it, it's been, so I don't quite understand how things get receipted in. Because, like, for instance, like, I know that they sent the money August 1st, but like, we talked at the end of last week and you weren't seeing it. So, I think it's probably worth having a discussion between you and I and Doug about where all the funds are.
Because that's not the first time.
And surcharges are something that depends on how much crime happens in the county, so.
And that's something, they'll have to say, Doug, here's how I want it to go.
Right.
This is the account, I want my restricted cash or
Yeah.
account. Right now, they're putting it in regular cash,
Mhm.
which is going in as part of your revenue to expend and use, whether it's wages, operations,
Mhm. Yeah.
anything.
But that's something that we don't know. We don't.
So what is
For
the
that,
budget?
Can we ask those guys to work on making sure the money receipted in goes to that cash account, not the general cash, and adopt the budget for the departmental funds at this point?
What are you adopting for? That's what I don't understand. What are you adopting?
Corey, you are hung up on $4,500. Debbie just gave us the solution.
No, that's not the
Brooke
solution.
and Doug are going to work to make sure that the,
But I'm concerned about that too, because that's something that's separate, that's supposed to be held over year after year if I don't use it. And I'm concerned that if I don't spend it within that budget, then it gets sucked into the general fund, and that's not where it's supposed to go. It's supposed to be strictly for
I
my
don't think
grant,
that's
or strictly
possible.
for my department.
It's
No,
not. There's
no.
no way for that to happen unless somebody is manually manipulating things. It's not getting sucked into, because your fund is yours alone. So unless somebody's misreceiving it into another account or another fund, it is in your fund.
Mr. Sherman, I'm really confused. The paperwork that Debbie's talking about, does Corey and Brooke, do you have a copy of that?
No, we don't. I have no idea what you're proposing right now. That's what I'm asking for clarification before you vote on it.
didn't you turn in the budget?
Yeah,
Okay. That's what we're trying to adopt.
you're not, because there's a big difference in Brooke's budget.
So if you would let me finish, approve so that Debbie can put together the final budget for adoption the 3rd of September.
Okay, so what it's gonna show is it's gonna show a negative of about $4,500 a year in the victim advocate budget. Is that what you're gonna adopt today?
No, Corey, I don't know where you're getting this. I
Well-
think Debbie's explained it now a
No,
couple of times.
she
I
hasn't.
think the solution is for Debbie and Brooke and Doug to work together and figure out where the money needs to be received into. We had a deficit of 10, a surplus of income of 13, so that leaves 30 right there. So work with these guys, and I think that everybody will be fine with what you come up with.
Okay, that's a future conversation. You're about to vote on something that has
Just
numbers.
setting departmental budgets, Corey.
Okay, what's this department budget gonna be set at? For the victim advocate specifically?
I'm gonna let Debbie answer that, but I think it's right on our tax levy requirements report. We provided copies for in past meetings. And mine is from August 15th, so I don't have an updated one with the fourth quarter that was missing, and that's why it was showing a negative.
Okay, so I'm wondering why, it's clearly there's a hole in this that you guys want to adopt. That's my concern, that's why I'm continuing to, not adopt, to
What?
vote on.
No, I don't know where that's coming from. Did I already make the motion? There's a motion on the floor, right?
The motion, you may move to adopt the departmental budgets, which was seconded by Commissioner Fulford.
We didn't change any departmental budgets, correct, Debbie?
Correct.
I would call for the question.
No, I have more questions on a different subject.
The motion is made, it's been made and seconded to approve the departmental budget, is that submitted, is there any further discussion?
Yeah, I have further questions on a different subject, Mr. Chairman. So it was gonna be $19,000 from the Mason Moore Memorial Fund, it was gonna go to the Barris Litigation Fund. And the suggestion I heard just a while ago was to use PILT money instead of that. Is that accurate?
Yeah, because the auditor didn't want us to do the transfer from Mason Moore Fund to yours and then from PILT back into Mason Moore, so we just eliminate the step of going through the Mason Moore and just take it out of PILT and put it into that fund from PILT versus taking it out of Mason Moore and leave that into Mason Moore.
So the concern I have is, the rest of what I heard was reduce the PILT amount from 100,000 to 80,000 because of that,
81,000.
81,000.
But the 19 that you wanted originally was a supplement of the 100, right?
Right, so the outstanding bill I have is 125,000. So we just received, I don't know if we've received it, but it's been approved. Beaverhead County's gonna send us $5,000. So with the 19,000 from the Mason Moore Fund, plus another 1,000 that's still in that litigation fund, that would take 20,000 off. With 100,000 from the PILT, that would pay off that entirely this fall, which we need to do because this thing's been due since January, and we've been paying them installments and kind of slow playing them and telling them the check's in the mail, it's coming, we're good for it. Well, the goal is to get that paid off, and that math that I just went through was our means to pay that off. There might be another 4,000 coming, hasn't come yet, reimbursement from the court administrators. But the bottom line is, if we use PILT as a substitute for the Mason Moore money, that's fine. But if then you reduce PILT by that corresponding amount, that still leaves us 19,000 short to pay that thing off. We need to pay it off this fall. So I've asked a couple times, and I'm happy to talk to the auditor. I've not yet had like an actual explanation of why that money cannot be used for this fund, because when it was put in by the commission, it was put in that it can be used for any purpose deemed appropriate by the sheriff. And he had deemed this as an appropriate use for it.
This subject is off of departmental budgets. Can I ask that we hear any comment on departmental budgets and then move on to PILT?
Yeah, we can do that. So we have a vote on this departmental budget, is there a vote, is all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same, motion carries. So I think now we can go to the PILT. My idea is to stay with the 100 plus the 19.
Mine too.
Okay.
And I think that was gonna be my motion as well. My suggestion is that we just next year do 81 instead of 100, so it's an
Oh,
advance.
For next year, not this year, the next year,
Right,
okay,
right, so it's essentially 119,000 from PILT this year,
this year.
next year 81.
Okay, so the concern I have is we've talked about the life of this case, and then we've got to begin building up money for the next part that's gonna come, that's gonna be very expensive. So I'm gonna like to continue to explore this with the auditor on what exactly the problem is on the use of these funds that their use was originally designated as very wide. So I'm gonna continue to explore that, and I'll come back to you when I have either been satisfied that he's right or convinced him otherwise. Because I don't want to, my goal is to prevent a $19,000 reduction next year. Eventually, we're gonna have to have that money to win this case.
Would you like us to hold off on the vote till you talk to Bob?
No, because if you're talking about a reduction for next year, then that's fine. It gives me plenty of time to deal with that. You're talking about the 100,000 plus 19, and then next year, we're gonna use that money to balance it, or offset it.
So the motion would be to advance the county attorney's office $19,000 from the expected PILT transfer of next fiscal year.
Yes.
And of course, that would correspond to 81,000 infused next year. I could put that in the form of a motion if I didn't.
Okay.
All right, I so move.
Is there a second?
No, second.
Motion been made and second to pull 19 from next year's, 19,000 from next year's budget. PILT to reduce that donation to the county attorney's office to 81,000. With advice from the auditor that Corey's gonna talk to. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Yeah, actually, I'm sorry. We don't have PILT on our list of things we're doing, so, I am going to take back my motion, because it's not on the agenda. We'll have to deal with it next week or the week after.
You can just table it.
So where are we at now?
Mills, so we have our mills sheet. We were able to give extension the 0.5, they got 0.3 last year, 0.2 this year, to offset the losses that, that department has been experiencing. So that was the biggest change, so they did get the increase. I think, what did you do, Debbie, with planning, 0.32?
Correct.
Okay, and that was from the recertification, and then, what Debbie also did is she looked at the senior meals. RMDC had requested an increase, I think, of 2.4%, and we were giving them substantially more than that. So she reduced the mills to realize it's still more than 2.4, but just slightly. And then those were the mills she was able to give to extension and planning and such general fund.
Okay.
And they're still getting more than what they were requesting. So with that, I would move, unless there's questions, that we adopt the mills as presented in the determination of tax revenue, mill levy limitations, as presented by Debbie.
Second?
I have questions,
Yes.
Can I see the document so we can see if there's a reduction on our end, or is there a reduction? Or an increase, or is there gonna stay the same? Because we had a letter out from the commission, you know, that we were going into this budget with the same exact mills we had the year previous, so I'm wondering if, did that stay the same?
There was a reduction of mills, so the motion last year was you would keep the same number of mills in the floating mills. So Debbie, can you explain what Department of Revenue did with the mills and what you did?
I know what they did, I just need to, can I see the document that you have?
Where are we at? Because I'm assuming that the visualization of what we actually talked about is not what happened. So, at the beginning of this budget
36.6.
cycle, we were told that we were getting 37.17 mils. That's what the budget was set at, that we proposed, that we submitted. So now it's down, I'm assuming it's probably down to 32 mils. Where's it down to?
Part of that was your SRS mills, which is based on a dollar value.
Okay.
It went down by .10. So what we had to do with all the budgets that get floating mills is that percent reduction applied across the board to everybody.
So what,
It was
just
3.3%, so here's how it was
how many
achieved.
mills do I have?
You have 36.0,
Okay, so how are we ever gonna
8.
visualize anything? Our bill, just stop for a second, please. This is where I'm getting frustrated, is that we just had a discussion that took an hour about recruitment retention and a plan to try to adjust this, and you guys reduce the amount of mills because the money went up. This, every year I
We
come down
didn't
here,
do it.
and
Department
stop.
of Revenue
You
did
know,
when
because
Department
you coulda
of
left it.
Revenue reduced the number
You
of
coulda left it.
mills.
Right. You could have left it exactly where our budget was set at last year's mills. It could have, and all we're doing is reducing it to the same amount of money that we ask for every year. That's what it comes down to. So I'm right here with hearing about everybody needs to take money and put it in CIPs. I can't get a CIP because I don't have any extra money, because every time I submit a budget, you reduce it to the same amount of money. So when you come in and you make a statement as whatever mills you get is what you got. So if you got 37.17, that's all you're getting this year. Don't ask for any more, then I shouldn't get any less, regardless of what the value of the mill is. True or false? I'm hearing a lot of truths from the people behind me here.
We've
because-
always said that the mills will be the same as long as the mills for the county don't get cut. The percentage that the entire county gets cut mills is that percentage goes to every department that gets mills. If it's 3.52% reduction in mills from the state, every department that gets mills gets a 3.52 reduction in their mills. That's exactly what we've been saying.
Okay,
But
how are
the
we
money
gonna fix
stays the
my
same.
problem, Mike?
I have a question.
How are we
You still
gonna fix
have the
it?
same, well, go talk to the state, they're the ones that reduce the mills,
You're the
not
one that
us.
sets the budget.
Right. We just
It's
told
you guys that, you three, the ones that set the
We've always
budget.
told you that the percentage of the
Okay.
mills that we get affected by is the same effect that
Mike,
you get.
Okay, here's the deal, okay? Exactly what these people have said to you all day, you obviously haven't listened, is that they're tired of money going out to things that aren't necessary. They want to feel safe. They want their families to be safe. They want their kids to be safe. They want their property to be safe. Do you think they really care about some of the other frivolous stuff? And we've had this discussion 19 times. The fact of the matter is, I'm never going to get where I need to be to provide the service that these people want in public safety. I'm never going to get there because the fact is, I am not have the means or ability, because I continue to get $615,000 of actual tax dollars, and the rest of it is revenue that I have to find. That still hasn't changed. So I don't really care what the state did. It's your responsibility to meet the needs of these people that sit right here, your taxpayers. True or false?
True.
Okay.
But we got some other services
So-
we have to fund also.
So there's some that aren't important.
Like what?
Like what?
Who's that not important to?
Anybody want to jump in on this?
Yes,
Okay.
Jesus Christ, my God, support him, increase his mills. You guys have cut his budget, clear back to when it was being cut and destroyed, when the Sheriff's Reserve Program was cut out by the county commissioners. The budget was cut then, it was terrible. Now look at what these guys are going through today, the increase of drugs and killings and loss of officers. My God, increase his mills. Decrease whatever you need to do. Look at what you have spent on this new garbage development. That money could have went to the sheriff's office, and you could have left the garbage alone. You could eliminate some other jobs that you've hired in the county. Planning board members, you don't need. You don't need other offices. You three can run it. Or you could lay off 5 and hire 1. Put on the top of your list, for God's sakes, these law enforcement officers. Fire departments, you want your house burnt? You want somebody to come and kill you at night? You want your child to be shot at school? This has to change. I have had so much support and so many calls. And the people are not in here. Trust me, my God, they don't want to come in here. They feel that they won't be listened to. They don't want to be discriminated against. They feel like they're aliens. They don't have the courage to come in and confront anymore. A lot of them are private. They're older or they're younger and they don't care. The younger don't understand. You have to change this. This has to be changed. Increase their mill levies. For God's sakes, do
So
something.
tell me, what do you want me to cut?
Cut the garbage department, cut the
Why
planning
would
board
you,
members.
why would you
Do away
wanna
with
cut the
planning-
garbage department when there's $300,000 in the debt because of mismanagement before? Because you never raised the rates on the garbage for 30 years, because that's why you're in the hole.
Holden told
If
me
you
that.
don't recover, and that's an enterprise fund that's supposed to pay for itself. That's why the rates went up.
Okay, Mike,
Because you
I-
can't run a 1996 budget for a business in the year 2019.
Okay, Holden told me that none of that was true, but I can't argue with him, Mike, I don't know the facts. Okay, eliminate or cut wages on some other programs.
How are you gonna hire anybody?
Okay, do you need a planning board head? No, you do not. I don't know enough
Let me,
about.
you know what,
all the
okay,
people
let's
that-
eliminate planning. You know what planning did for us last year?
Do you know what agriculture?
When we lost 17 million in taxes,
what agriculture-
expansion in residential properties paid for that 17 million. Otherwise, we'd have been further in the hole other than the 17 million that we managed to balance out by growth. And we only have growth if we have a planning board.
Okay, your largest income is from farmers, ranchers, and landowners.
No, it's not.
Okay, those people want law enforcement, maybe you don't want the protection, we do. I don't know, I agree, I am not educated enough on you, I've never been in your positions. I
I'll
don't
tell you
know
what,
enough
you can
about-
have this one, it's open.
I don't want it, I know, Mike, it's not a fun thing. But I'm just trying to tell you what the public is supporting and asking for and putting them on the top of the list.
Well, then the bottom line is, and I would love to see public safety have a lot more money, but the bottom line is, we do not have the money to give them. If you cut everything that I hear, that we need to cut this, we need to cut that, the only problem that is, every group that you wanna cut has just as much need as the group that needs all that money.
You could increase his mill levies. I have been around the sheriff's office for an awfully long time, and all the time, the sheriff, whoever it may have been in the past and the one you have now, has fought and not being treated right for their budget money. The money has been taken, it's been pushed off, or if, say the money didn't get spent in that budget year, and like your budget person here said, it's supposed to stay in the budget. Well, I saw the money taken out of the sheriff's office and put in other departments. Corey talked about losing his money in the other departments. That has happened in this county many times. Laura, you can shake your head no, but it has happened. You will find this out with the research that's going on now. Give him some more money, raise his mill levies, or for Christ's sake, go to the public then, let's put a mill levy, let's get him some money. Let's vote on it.
I don't have
If
any,
you guys don't wanna
I
do
fully
that.
support going with the mill levy, but I'm telling you, the money that the county gets right now from the state, we're spending as frugally as we can. And we're dipping into pilt all the time.
Well, you've got, for God's sake, people, please change your thoughts towards the sheriff's office. They are protecting us. This is a dangerous country. Go ahead, Cory.
Yeah.
Can we just get the number, because I'm not clear on it. So I understand our overall total number of mills went down, and the value of the mill went up. Could we get those numbers from what it was to what it went down to, and the value of each one when it went from to new value?
It went from 108.55 mils last year to 104.89 this year, that we have to divvy up.
104.89,
Yes,
108.55 to 104.89. And then the value of each mill change?
and then that that mill went down by 3.37% from what we were getting to what we got this year. But the dollar value went from 16,047 to 16,456. Almost 16.456, or sorry, 17,064.8.
Okay, I lost that. You do that again, please? So the previous value per mill was what?
16,047.1. This year, the value went up 17,604.8.
Debbie, can you tell Corey and Wynn how much their budget increased because of the increase in valuation despite the loss of 3.37% in their mills? It's 37,000 something?
So last year, Public safety, 599,520.78. This year, including the SRS mills, 181.83.
So
Cover that SRS liability.
can you tell me the mill numbers you told Win at the beginning of what the mill, it was a 37 or something and then it went to 36 something? Is that what you said a little while ago?
Last year, 37.36. 2.2 of those were the SRS mills. So it should have been 35.16.
Okay. And then now it's 30 something else. What is it now?
36.08, which includes 2.1 SRS mills.
Could you tell me what SRS is, please?
Sheriff's Retirement System.
I thought it was Secure Rural Schools. I was way off.
It worked.
It works.
So, am I understanding the argument is, even though the mill number itself went down because of the increase in revenue, there was either the same or more revenue to the sheriff's office? Is that what the argument is? Okay. So, I'm just,
Significant.
what do you think about
Well,
that,
it's
Lynn?
not-
I'm not, I'm just saying, I'm just
It's
trying to
really-
translate, hold on, I'm just trying to translate the numbers so we all are on the same page of the
Let's put this in
discussion.
perspective,
I'm,
okay?
let me
Just stop
finish,
for a
let me
second.
finish, let me finish. I'm just saying, I asked for clarity on the numbers so we all had the same
Okay.
basis for the discussion.
I appreciate that.
Okay, now go ahead
Now,
with
that's
whatever you wanna say.
$637,000 in tax dollars out of a $2.1 million budget. The rest of it is revenue that I have to find. So what people don't understand is last year I was required to find $775,000
Wow.
in jail revenue. This year, or now I think it's actually, last year was 830, now it's 864. So your public safety's banked on whether or not I have inmates in that jail that are paying, okay? So that's my problem.
Yeah.
Okay, is that we are completely lopsided on this and we continue to kick the can every year after year after year. So if we would have left it at 37.17, at least I would have visualized the increase that maybe, just maybe, I might be able to actually have a CIP, because I'm really glad that everybody else has got CIPs that have money in them because they didn't spend their budget. I don't have that opportunity, so I have to come down here and beg and borrow and steal and gripe and groan every single time I want a car or I need something for my office. Because I've got, my budget is smaller now than it was in 16 when I first became sheriff. It was 2.1 and change, now I'm $2,080,000, that's my budget. So I don't really care what the mill value is, my budget's still smaller than it was 3 years ago. And the expectation of the people that I house in the Broadwater County Detention Center is now well close to $1 million. Again, and we're banking that on whether or not people are going to jail. So that's the problem that I have when we start having these conversations. $40,000, $38,000 is not substantial in a $2 million budget. $38,000 in Corey's budget, that's a whole lot of money. To me, that's one patrol car. Not even a patrol car. It doesn't even pay for a patrol car. Okay? So it's not a substantial increase. It may be when you're only paying a small amount of things. So this is a conversation. This is why year after year I'm down here beating my chest, because the fact is we are no better off today than we were in 2015. If you go back to 2005 when that building, that nightmare called a detention center was built and put in place, because that's the best way I can describe it, there was 46.5 mills allocated to public safety. 46.5 mills. Now we're down to 35. We were all the way down to 27. So do we want to fix the problem, or do we just want to keep ignoring it? Do we want to keep kicking the can and hope and pray that things work out well? Is that what we want to do? And I'm tired of this annual conversation about this every single time. Exactly what Mr. Davis said, is when does public safety become a priority in your life? Because it doesn't really matter if it's not safe to live in and your people are getting shot, killed, raped, or beaten and their property's getting stolen, no one's moving here. You know it and I know it. Your growth doesn't mean a damn thing. You know it. We've said this time and time again, but no one listens. When the felony cases get too much, he's saying, hey, I need a deputy county attorney because I can't keep up with what's going on down here, let alone what's going on in the criminal side of things and the civil side of things. And we keep kicking that can. That doesn't become a priority. I'll be honest with you, I don't care what business or people move in here because the fact is I can't support them. And I've been telling you that every single year for the last 3 years. But no one listens. Everybody goes, yep, Wynn's just up there talking again. You think I'm doing this for what? Nothing. I'm trying to support public safety. That's why I'm still here. Okay? after 23 years in this job, I think I have